Good afternoon. Yeah, I'm Troels, this is Zina, and we're just here for 1 hour, so it's going to be quite short and quite intense. We want to deliver some information that is very, very important to us, as we believe that this is how we got brought up, and this is some quite with the foundation on how to kind of build on to with all the other excitement, more competitive stuff. Yeah, because we feel that nowadays when we look at the competitions, there's a lot of effects going on, and there's a lot of mechanics going on, which is very impressive and very useful in the competitive dancing. But we often see a lack of understanding in the fundamentals of what we're doing and the different kind of actions that the combination of the different elements creates the different kind of dancing. Yeah? So, the difference between even mechanics and technique. Yeah? My understanding of this is the technique is literally the basic things that I need in order to move. Yeah? So let's say, for instance, if I want to do a rumba walk, I would need a certain movement of spine and a settlement in order to take a step. I need to transfer my weight. I need a rotation and I need a settlement to transfer that. That's literally all I need. Yeah? So I don't, in order to just be able to move, I wouldn't need necessarily a upper body movement, or upper body muscularity, or upper body settlement. Yeah? But it's good, and it's needed, and it's a developed version. Yeah? But I shouldn't start by actually doing all the upper body, and now suddenly I forget about what's happening underneath. Yeah? And this is what we see when we look at the competition floor often, that there's a lot of posture, a lot of upper body movement, but now when you actually have to move, there's something lacking. Yeah? So we get into positions that is actually not pretty to look at, and it's not related to the actual characterization of the dancing. Yeah? So, for instance, today we're going to talk a bit about the rumba. Okay? For me, in the rumba, there's 3 elements that is very characteristic in the rumba. It's the pendulum swing, which is from side to side. Yeah? And it's important to define the difference between the different actions. So there's the pendulum swing, which is just from side to side. There's rotation, which is just forward and backwards. And there's settlement, which is settling of weight up and down. Yeah? So to be able to actually separate those 3 actions and know when does one action go into another action. Yeah? So for instance, in a rumba walk, it's very clear for me, if I stay here, yeah, there's a settlement that will bring, together with my spine, that will bring me onto the step. Yeah? Now there's a weight transfer. In order for it, if I'm stuck here, I have to transfer my weight. Now, I can decide if that weight transfer is related to a pendulum swing, or it's just a weight transfer and now the pendulum swing comes. But it's for me to be able to make the decision whether I dance a pendulum swing together with the weight transfer, or I'm actually getting a strong position there, full weight on that foot, but now dancing that pendulum swing. Yeah? The pendulum swing then blends into the rotation. Yeah? So once I'm now here, and I arrive clearly onto that foot, there's a rotation happening around my spine. Yeah? But it's again to be clear that once I get here, I arrive, and the rotation doesn't start already, but I actually have to finish that pendulum swing before there's a rotation happening. Yeah? To define when does one action start, when does another action begin, and how much of those do I blend together. So in the beginning I want to see this is one action, this is another action. And then at some point I can actually blend them together. But it's very clear in my head, when is one action starting, that's a pendulum. Now when is the other one, goes that into a rotation, and then into the next. Yeah? Because what I often see, if, for instance, in a back basic in the beginning, yeah, is that there's not clear that I arrive over that leg, and now I see rotation and settlement and everything together, and now I'm falling off the step. So it's not clear that from here I have a clear pendulum that goes into a rotation And it's now, even if I didn't do a settlement, in the hip, I'll still be able to move. Yeah? Now, let me just go back to the rumble walk again. So for
them to actually, sorry guys, I think you should try to just feel also those separate three actions in your body, because it's one thing to hear it, completely another just to experience it in the body. So if you can just stand up beside your chair for you to feel exactly what we're talking about.
So literally it's just foot stand, yeah? And now, what we have to do is to literally separate the different actions. So my target is to just do a pendulum swing. So try not to do any rotation. Yes. So you can feel how this is just pendulum from one foot to another. And if you see from the side, it doesn't even go back and forward. It literally just underneath my shoulders, going from side to side. Yes. Yeah? Before, let's just say one thing. Before we even start that, I have to put on my posture. Yeah? So from here, I still have to make my lower spine long. So now I've collected my center, because if I do it from here, my bum is already sticking out. Yeah? So I have to lower my lower spine. There. So I'm already set up in my position. So it's underneath my hip, is underneath the shoulder, and I just roll from one foot to another with a pendulum action from side to side. That's it.
Good.
Yeah? Now let's just talk about another thing. I can do pendulum action without weight transfer. So I can even do this, just to isolate it even more. Yeah? So I don't even have to transfer my weight in order to get the pendulum action. Yes? Yeah, I can decide to do it, but it's again to be aware. Sometimes it seems like other things kind of automatically happen to us, and it's not a conscious decision. And it's for us to be so aware of the sensitivity in our body that it's a conscious decision what we do. So I'm able to do just from side to side, no weight transfer, but I'm also now I'm moving my spine with it, which makes it a weight transfer as well.
You feel the difference when
Yeah?
you do it? Good.
Good. Now collect your feet. Now, once we do rotation, what is the center of a rotation? If I want to do a rotation of my hips, what's the center of that rotation? Spine. Exactly. Yeah? So once I do it here, I want to make a very clear idea that my spine is the center, and my hip is literally just going, one hip is going forward, another one is going backward, and that now changes. Whoa. So rotation is happening as my center is my spine is stationary. It just goes back and forward.
Try not to rotate your shoulders.
And
Keep
it's
your shoulders
only, yes, try and hold your shoulders
very
like this. And now, just move your hips. That's right. Yeah, so there's a lot of isolation going on, because I only want to do this one action. That's right. Yeah? The same thing we can do if we talk about upper body. I can also only do upper body rotation around my spine.
Don't move the hips then.
Don't move the hips then, exactly. So you see my hips don't move at all. Yeah? And now stay here, it's only hips moving. That's
And now try no hips, just top. Stop the top, and now flip the hip only. Good. And then the top, and the hip only. Good. And the other way, the top, hip only. Top, the hip only. And it's in a way that dry that you have to practice it, so you get to discipline the body to be able to isolate all those parts. Yeah, so this is part of what we also do on a daily basis, to really get the body familiar with that isolation, because it's not really natural. Let's face it, you don't really naturally do these things before you walk, but you have to discipline the body to do that. Yeah?
Yeah. So that, as Ina said, even if we naturally turned our hips, my shoulders would go with it.
Yes.
So it's to be aware of what's actually going to happen. Say, no, that's not what I want. I have to oppose inside my body, okay, for my shoulder not to go with it. I have to almost think that it's going forward in my own body. I don't want to put it forward, but because the natural drift takes me back, I have to think that it's slightly energy going forward for it to stay natural, neutral. Yeah?
Yeah. So we've done this motion, the pendulum, and now we've done this one, right? That has been the rotation. So what was the last one he mentioned? The settle. So it goes which way?
Now what do I settle? What is it I settle? hips, weight. Exactly. I settle my weight. Yeah? Now that results in a hip reaction. Yeah? But I'm not trying to put my hip down. Actually, I can have my hip down, but my weight is up. My weight is not down now, but my hip is.
This is actually very, very clear nowadays. The misunderstanding of settling in a hip, and now I'm basically settled. I'm actually just disconnected as of now, right? And then this feeling of volume on top, that's where it goes a little bit off track. Versus literally what Troels says, you can be actually quite high in your center, and you can still ground yourself without even using any hip whatsoever, doing it from the upper body.
Yeah? So try that for one. Try to just stand on one leg and just try and lower your weight down. So don't try to think now I have to put a hip out as a picture. Yeah. This is kind of the picture I see. Okay, set your weight, and I see people doing this. Yes. Yeah, that's a picture. I just want to feel the actuality of settling weight down.
Even through your breath.
Connecting your weight down to the floor. That's it. So while I'm doing that, there is a certain muscularity in my thigh that prevents the hip to go out. Because if I naturally go there, my hip will go out. So I have to use a certain muscularity to prevent that hip to go out and just stay in that.
And be grounded this way, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, because actually if you try and do this and now release the hip, that's where I feel all the energy goes out of my body. And that's what we see often. For instance, especially we change the direction, right? When we have a back basic. And now for the girls here, if they dance the hip down there, how are they going to move now?
Just by keep putting me out.
That's where I see a lot of this going on. Yeah, or late action, because she's used all the action there now, so now she has to, and that foot doesn't become clear weight transfer. Yeah? She has to still from there be aware, where does that go? Into a weight transfer, into rotation, and now that settlement is connected to the power of moving forward. Yeah, so it's not an effect necessarily. Yeah, it's a choice. Of course, we can make it a choice, but then it's conscious decision. She can actually dance that and transfer that weight over. Yeah, quite clear, quite simple. Yeah. So, what I just want to quickly go through is the forward walk and the backward walk, how I actually think about these three actions and how they're gone together. Okay? Now, to a closed position. Because in Latin and in Rumba, Cha-Cha, we often think this is where it starts. Yeah? For me it doesn't make sense, because this is like in ballroom a preparation step into this. Because from here I can decide the direction of my next step. I prepare, and now I take a step there. I prepare, and now I take a step there. Yeah? So just for you to be aware of this neutral position. If we talk very basic, it's also where I have my hips is underneath myself. There's no settlement yet. It's just I'm ready to go in whatever direction I want to go. Yeah? Just as a pure basic. Okay? This is where, now from here I can start preparing my body in the direction I want to go. I can time my hip and my settlement to take that step. Yeah? Good. Now, so I would start it from here. And what I would do is that, another idea that we often talk about is that I use my feet as train tracks. Yeah? So what I mean by that is that, first of all, in rumba walks, we have 2 tracks of the feet. Yeah? Main thing for that, for me, is that when I have a cleared path of the track, my weight is now, I've imagined it very clear for myself. There's a train track on the floor. And my weight here, my body, my hip area, is the train. And now it literally just drives all the way through that track and arrives in the ball of the foot. So I place the track. The only thing I have to think about is drive that train through that track, and I arrive by the ball of the foot. If that is here, my base is too small. Yeah, and my hip can actually not arrive completely. And the next big issue is that once now this foot has to pass, it has to take a detour to get in front of the other one. Yeah? So, tracking of the feet is quite an important thing. both in terms of the alignment of the feet, but also in actually transferring my weight from one foot to another. Yeah? Good. So, first of all, neutral position. I would now think that my weight is, I can settle my weight to connect down to the floor. That's right. Now from here, I think about driving my weight through the train track. So again, if I stay on my left foot is the train track. And now I drive that through until I get over balance and I catch the weight with my free leg. That's right. That's the stepping action. Okay? Now, I just want to do it like this just to be clear to how to divide the actions. Now, just transfer your weight by using your back foot, but don't do pendulum action. Just as an exercise. Transfer your weight, but keep the hip back just for now. Yes. Now, do a clear pendulum action from one foot to another. That's it. Good. Now, another thing that we see is the misunderstanding of the placement of the hips. Where the hips is placed in your body. Because often what we see is that, now dance your hips, and we see this. Now I see more bum than hip right now. Right? We're not talking about the hip. It's literally, especially if you wear jeans, but the stitch down here until there, that's my hip. And every time I talk about the hip, it's actually the inside of the hip bone. So when I want my hip forward, I think the inside of the hip bone is going forward. That's right. Yeah? And not the outside. See, I will even lose balance when I get there. It's not clear where I'm getting aligned. So it's the inside of that hip bone that goes onto that foot. Very nice. Yeah? Now, we have taken the step, we've transferred the weight, and we have done the pendulum action. Now what happened is that I do a rotation around my spine. And let's try again to make it very dry. Do it without any settlement. So I literally just rotate. That's right. It's very easy. My hip is in front of my shoulder. I bring it underneath my shoulder. Great. And now from here, the hip continues backwards. It finishes, so it now got under my shoulder. Now from here, it continues behind my shoulder. And now I settle to take the step. That's right. Transfer the weight. Keep the hip back just for now. Finish that pendulum. Good. Now rotate, no settlement. Now continue that rotation backwards and now settle to step out. Great. Yeah? Just move back a bit. Now what is important is that I'm sure you've heard at least 100 different versions of the rumble walk. Yeah? Or you should have your hip over straight away, or you should start with settlement, all these things. What is important for me is that these four components of the step, weight transfer, pendulum and rotation into settlement. Those are the components that I can decide, okay, when do I start them? How much do I want of the settlement? So I can like turn up and down of whatever look I want. Yeah, whatever look, whatever feel, whatever kind of musicality I want to express. Okay? So, let's say for instance, some people, they would land here, and they would now transfer the pendulum together with the weight transfer. So they have a step clearly over there. Yeah, that's one version. Other people would have full weight, but their hip is still back. And now go there. Yeah, it's all different. Now, people would maybe go into, okay, I settle already here, and now the rotation continues. Some people would say, okay, just do rotation, and now I settle to go out. Yeah? Everything is okay. You just have to make clear for your own self how you time those components together. Yeah? Okay. Everything clear so far? Any questions about the kind of the organization of everything? Yeah? Good. We talked about the forward walk. Yeah? So I just want to make clear that it's the settlement, step, transfer, rotation, and settlement into step. Now, one thing is important is to time the settlement. Is mostly used, it's not always, but is to time the settlement with the movement. Yeah? So what I often see is that there's some settlement going on, but it's not timed with the movement of the spine. Yeah? So what is important is that no matter how much I time in terms of I want to do 80% of my settlement here, I still need the last 10% of my settlement to actually move out. So I always call it like a scooping action. Yeah, or it's like a slope. in the end is the deepest point, just before I go out. I was like scooping ice cream. Yeah, it's the end, that's the deepest point. So when I'm, for instance, here, yeah, I transfer the weight, I rotate, and now I still have power. The settlement there is actually what pushes me out of that step. Yeah? Because that's where I see often and that's where it doesn't become logic for me, because I see you have to go forward, but actually everything is working backwards. And now I have to move, and in my body it's impossible to actually be on time. Yeah? I still have to now work my spine forward and push off from that leg to get onto the foot. Yeah? Good. Now, we often speak about the forward walk. Yeah? But how is this reflected in the backward walk as well? Because it's exactly the same thing that I have to be aware of. Because often what we see again, once we place there's a lot of rotation and settling, and the foot is still there. And now it becomes a bit of a stiff leg going on here. Yeah? But it's actually not time. How again, I place the foot, I transfer the weight and the pendulum, so I now arrived here, underneath my shoulder. So I can now time that rotation and the settlement together with the free leg. Yeah? Especially the placement of the foot, I always say for myself, I don't know what's behind me. I have to check first. So it's very clear for me to check. Now I can actually transfer my weight. I can check. Now I transfer my weight. I check. Now I transfer my weight. So it creates quite a strong base for myself to be able to transfer that weight back there. And sometimes I see it's together and it's falling. Yeah?
Just how it organizes now, the same for action.
Yeah?
Yes. We can do it together. Yeah. The clarity of that organization, I'm taking over now because we girls most of the time go backwards, and that's a lot of the experience that he just talked about. That exact clarity of organizing my step back, and this particular moment I would like to point out, because what is happening there? If you place your arms here, this is basically your powerhouse where you drive yourself into a certain direction. This lower spine is my engine that drives me into a certain place. So once I've placed my right foot, in this case backwards, I need to activate that engine and transfer all my weight onto that leg. And vital here is not to open the hip. So basically what Troels was saying, you place the foot, you transfer your weight, and you create your pendulum into the side direction. This is the tricky bit. So we never would go step and open up here already, because now I've abandoned my leg. You recognize the feeling? Yeah, so basically once you take the step and you transfer the weight, pendulum happens very clearly to side, almost to the degree that the inner thighs feel they work towards each other, right? So that's my pendulum. The next thing is my rotation connected to the taking of the leg and the settlement to step backwards. All right, if you need some more space, come more forward.
Sounded so somewhere.
Sounded so. Okay, good. So let's just try it one more time. You can do it in your own timing, but the task today is to order them. Order them very dryly in your body. So we've got and step, and transfer that lower spine pendulum to side. Rotation right under, time the free leg, settle and step. And then transfer pendulum to side clearly. Rotation, take the leg, strike back. Transfer pendulum to side. Check, do you have connection here? We used to practice with like money notes. Whoever dropped the money, the teacher got that one. So I was sure that I had to keep that tight, you know? So when you step and really transfer here, keep that very tight, guys. And then from there, you can create your rotation into the next step. Step, pendulum, rotation. Step, pendulum to side, rotation. Yeah, so obviously, in my mind, is this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The more it speeds up, it just, the gaps between become smaller, but the order doesn't change. Yeah? Why is that so important? Because that is directly related to the person in front of me who is going forwards in this moment, because he's got to go through exactly the same order So this moment here, right, his hip is forward and mine is to side. That creates a continuous so-called push, like a positive feeling towards each other. It's not a separate thing. We are actually using our body step. Now, if I had opened here, I already lose him. Yes? So that moment here, one more time, please. We would take the step, and here's step. And then this moment, he creates that togetherness in the connection, so that from there he can decide to lead me into the next step and furthermore. Yeah, because usually we get, oh, he pushes me too much, she pulls me, so on and so forth. Most of the time it's just because the actions you're doing are not timed or not well ordered. This is basically what we're trying to say. Simplify and make clearer. A lot of your problems are going to go away. I promise you that.
Actually, one of the most difficult things in the basic is to keep it constant all the time. To actually be able to transfer and keep the constantness of the weight. So there's no push and pull or no hiccups or any immediate movements. It's actually just constantly from one movement to another. Because once I'm so sensitive towards every inch of my movement, I'm then able to decide, okay, it's this inch, or those 3 inches I want to speed up. But I decide that, because I know exactly which part of my foot I'm at. So there, okay, I actually want to get a bit quicker there. One. But then I want to slow it down again. Yes. Yeah?
Yeah.
But I'm sensitive towards those small stations and how I link them together. Now just for a man, what we often do whenever we step backwards, for instance, we have replays of step. Yeah, so in a check here, right? 1. I don't have a step back now. I literally just have a replace. And this is where, this took some time for me to understand as well, that it doesn't continue back here. Because this is the feeling I then get. And I drop the center, but actually the awareness of, from here on, I just need to transfer that weight onto that foot and have it, exactly what Ina said, the pendulum is to side and not behind. Yeah? But the awareness of that underneath yourself and staying there. It's quite a nice feeling, because it's also from where my spine is traveling backwards to its stationary, so I can now receive that weight of Ina. And now that's the next step underneath myself to receive it again on the next one.
So, do you all have our partners? Do you have couples together? Majority, yeah?
Yes, guys stay on the left foot, ready to go forward on the right foot.
Girls already here, start with the closed hip. Yes, some of you are already here. There you go, nice.
Yeah, now for your own self, guys, feel where's your weight on that left foot. Is it in the back, is it in the front, is it in the center? And now feel, if your hip is lifted on your right side, just feel that pendulum and connect it to your left foot without any movement.
And you girls to side.
That's it.
Together with the guys, just feel, sense it. He's the one that is giving you the tempo.
Good. And now from there, feel how that now goes into a rotation, and you stop at the neutral point for now, where your feet is underneath yourself.
Nice.
Good. Now continue from here and place the foot.
Boom. Right under.
Now transfer the weight onto that foot and arrive with the pendulum.
To side, girls.
And this
to
is for the girls. Almost give the hip to the guys, the left hip.
This feeling. Boom.
Towards behind.
Sorry?
Is there any weight behind?
Any weight?
Behind.
There is a resistance towards the floor, but you would drive all your weight onto the front.
Most of the weight.
Yeah.
Just before the rotation, the full weight has to be on. Yeah, so once I get some here, 4 and 1 and I have to have the rotation.
There's just energy in the foot, but there's no weight.
Yeah?
Yes.
That's quite an important question, because in order for me to have a clear center of the rotation, what I call the foundation has to be fully transferred. No matter what rotation I have, I need full weight onto that foot. Yeah? If, for instance, I'm here and I need to turn, my spine is not clear. And that's what I often see if someone wants to spin, they do this, and now, whoop, they lose balance. Yeah? Instead of actually be very clear that I'm here, and from there, I can spin.
And you don't have to get here and now
No.
you don't need the break, but you definitely need to pass through here before the next turn comes. Yes?
Yeah? Any kind of rotation. So what is in this case, even here. That's why I say it's important that my pendulum has been transferred, so my spine is clearly, so I can rotate all around that leg and that spine, and not from here. And now I start rotating, and I'm already broken my body.
And I have no clue what's going on. I
Yeah?
can't feel him at
So
all.
to actually get that now a vertical line, and then I can start rotating and transfer. Yeah?
Yes?
Okay, let's do that one more time.
One more, yes.
So, left foot. Now, pendulum, so the guys is clearly onto the left foot. Nice. And now just rotate around the spine, pull in the leg, continue the circle, and take the step. Good. Now transfer the weight together. So we don't want any of the effect of the guy getting closer right now. We move as one block onto that foot. Nice.
Good
Now-
moves.
Now again, rotate, and the guys place the foot in front of them to check. Finish the weight of the girl, and now guys, just transfer feel that you almost lower the heel just underneath your shoulder. Just lower the heel, and now transfer the weight onto that foot. That's right.
Remember, one more time, guys, go back to this part. He said lower the heel. Actually, for the girls, it's exactly the same. We lower the heel of our left foot first, so our weight is still towards the right foot. But now we go heel, middle, ball of the front. That's called a replace. So you actually create, boom, a pendulum feeling through your left leg versus a metronome, which we sometimes actually make the mistake of. Sometimes we go ball flat versus from heel into flat. Do you see the difference?
Yeah.
Right, so you are here one more time for whoever can't see it. Whenever you do a replace, step back. Your heel of the front leg kisses the floor first, and then you drive through that newly established foot on the floor. Versus from here, ball flat. Do you see the difference? Then I'm traveling this way versus I'm traveling this way. Very, very big difference in balance. You have that in your sliding door, for instance. 2 and go 3. Yeah, you can make it work, but it's not exactly the feeling of a pendulum driving through. You recognize the step, right? So it's the replace, get the heel down, pendulum. Easy, right?
Have a question?
When you put that heel down to the chair, how do you coordinate the pendulum? Are you back to
So from here, my hip is actually flat.
yeah?
Yeah. Now from here, what I do is that I just there's no more hip action on the right side.
Yes.
So from here, it actually just stays, and I just continue the hip underneath my right shoulder.
So if you do this actually. Seriously, put them on your hips.
Like
That's it. Yes, very good. So when you're in the check position, your right arm happens to be higher than the left,
Yeah.
right? Then you would neutralize it here because you do get to that position. Now obviously when you replace the foot, boom, that right one would start elevating again, but you're not opening it. And now when you travel all the way here, then it starts to become in this direction. You feel the difference? So when you actually keep the hip closed, you're able to get that scale going in a very clear way. If you had opened the scale here, the hip here, that wouldn't have happened. You see what I mean? I actually I feel this is quite a helpful exercise. Literally rest your arms on your hips and try to sense where do they actually go. So here at this very moment, I am neutral. If I go all the way up to that foot, it's inevitable that's going to happen. So luckily we don't push it extra. It's going there anyway. So this is what he asked. Where does it go? Back. Because I transfer fully, this is what's going to be higher. Make sense? Yeah? Good. You can use that
So
exercise.
literally, yes. So
Yes,
literally
yes.
Literally from here.
Settlement, whoop. And then we go to here, I'm neutral. And then we go there. Totally fits. Good news. Right? So you can use that to time your pendulums together.
Now just to add on to that, because I feel that it can be a slight restricted feeling to do that little action in my hip area, right? That's where the mechanics comes in. Of the hip action, just do that. Nothing else than just that. Yeah? Now on top of that, yeah, I can add the upper body. But it doesn't change anything in the hip. Yeah? So it's important that it's not something that I do, and then suddenly I disturb the clockwork, an engine going on underneath. Yeah? But that's where I add for posture, for more volume, for more competitiveness. I add the upper body muscularity on top of what's already going on. Yeah? Because that's what I feel that if I want to do this, okay, that's a bit social and yeah, exactly. But I can actually add that, and the discipline of not disturbing you with the upper body is what's different. Yeah?
We try one more time,
One more time.
and then we do the single thing. So, on the leg, arrive, pendulum rotate together. Place the foot behind, girls. Transfer together with the guy, pendulum to side. Rotation and settle to step. Step on, fully on the right leg. Now get that heel down once he started to drive you forward. Heel down, then drive through the foot, arrive over your pendulum. Rotation, step forward, pendulum, rotation. Yeah, so do it one more time. We just have a look at you. Yes? One more time. From the top. And prepare. Sense where your hips are. Rotation into settle strike. Step fully back and fully forward. Rotation into step. Settle. Pendulum rotation into step. Forward. Pendulum rotation. Okay. It's important that you listen to each other more than you listen to me at this very moment. Because you get confused and I'm already seeing some stuff going on. You know? I'm just here to kind of speak while you're dancing, but sense each other. That's my number one thing. Okay, so do it in your own timing and really clearly. The pendulum into rotation and strike. This has to be together. Okay, try one more time. And pendulum rotation in your own time. Yeah, try a few times.
There's a slight look up, there's not space to do anything, and it gets quite high. Yeah? So for instance, when we do it here, we have the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and 1 and. That's where I see a lot of guys with 2 and a 3 and a 4 and 1 and it gets high and it gets this position. Yeah? Even when I dance the Cuban motion, Cuban action in closed feet, I think about the same 3 things. From here, I have a pendulum going diagonally. I have a rotation and I have a settle. Pendulum going diagonally forward. Now rotation, now settle. Pendulum go diagonal forward. Now rotation, now settle. So it's constantly that clockwork against underneath my own body again. And I don't have to go up because the hip is just going diagonal. There. Yes. Even on 2 flat feet. You don't have to just go from the hip goes diagonally there. Now rotate and now settle. Diagonally, rotate and settle. Diagonal, rotate and settle. Yeah? Because this is what happens when we dance 2 and a 3 and a 4. Here. Her hip is there. Now, we dance both the diagonal forward there. Now we both start to do the rotation. That's right. So it's actually very tight there. And now from here I set the weight. 2, 3, and 4.
Same here also. Same story.
And
za, za, za versus za, za. Right? Where we know open here. Right? Left one, slightly backwards. You see? This
It's a,
It's funny, but it's a big change. I tried it myself as well. So when you go 2 and 3
If I do it
and
here?
4, that's blocking also for me. But if it goes 2 and 3 and slightly behind, I actually have the feeling of it allows me to get on my foot. Try it. It's really, really different feeling. Yeah? So let's count so we get a bit more tempo together. So 2, 3 and 4. And 1 and 2 and 3 and whoop, boom, boom, boom. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and. All right.
so guys, look good up until here into the fan. Now the next step here, I already saw you thinking out there. There's a step on that left foot as well. Yeah? Either if you dance it as a classical forward walk turning, yeah, or with a swivel through your left foot, swiveling there to the side foot. But
You
there's
still have to
action,
establish.
and that's why I go through that neutral position. It's very clear. If it's a forward walk turning, my train is still going around that left foot, continuing forward, and now I change through there. If I do the swiveling action, it's very clear that I transfer the weight, and through that neutral, I swivel through my foot to place it. But I'm going through that neutral position. That's why I changed my direction. Yeah? So what I saw was that you're going a bit there. And I didn't see the finish of that Cuban action there. Together. So we now dance that together there. Yeah? So it's the coordination of that clockwork underneath.
Yeah, I would like someone to come in the middle and then share what they feel with us. Not share as in words, but just dance with us. Yeah, so we just do it together. Who would like to come over here? You would like to come over. Do you have a partner?
Yes.
Okay, I'll catch you later, okay? So can you try with us? All right. All right, so 2, 3, 4. This would be the 2. Yeah, so start from here. Start from here.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
2, 3, and 4.
Step on the 4. Yes.
Yes.
Great. Now transfer the weight.
And
Beautiful. Place the foot.
2,
Nice. Now go back onto the foot.
and 3,
Great. And collect your feet.
4.
And transfer the weight. 1. Yes. And it's exactly to be very clear in your own. For me, it's like meditation. I'm only thinking about my own self. And because of that, it goes through. I always said that the connection is like a telephone line. Yeah? I'm not talking into the line. I'm talking through my telephone. This is my telephone. So I know exactly what I have to do. Transfer the weight, take the step, transfer. That's a check. Very good. Transfer the weight back and now collect your feet.
That was
Very
good.
good.
The important is for you to time everything. So really, really follow this tempo. Step, transfer, step, transfer, step, better transfer, step, better transfer, right? So this is what you have to teach. A little bit more timing it together, because otherwise you do one thing, it does another, you can't break together. Right? So that inner clock. Yes? Thank you. Thank you. Would you like to come over and do it with us? Yes?
So have a look as well, because the best way we actually learn is to see
See.
how the difference is, and often we share the same problems. 2 and 4 and 1 and 2
All right.
and 3, take the next one, and 4 and 1.
Good.
Okay?
Good.
Can you, yes? Great. Can you share a bit what you feel is the difficult part, or what have changed? Like, if you think about some of these things, what has made it easier?
Much easier I feel when we are connecting those way together. I feel much more weight towards him. The connection is constant. So this is much easier as we are starting here. Yeah. Now, difficult is from here. I'm feeling that much gap.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm losing the connection there. I don't know why.
Yes.
Yeah. This one is fine. No. Either I give him too much resistance to build a connection, then it's hard. If I follow, then it's empty.
Yes. I saw many of you nodding at the background because it's also a feeling that we get. Okay, let's try to answer that. Yes? For me, as a receiver of the information from him, at that very moment, I'm, let's say, on my right foot. What I saw you try to do, which was very good, was to get on the foot quite soon. Yes? Which is good if you do it alone. But in this particular case, after I place my foot, I should actually almost feel like I stay longer on my right leg, right leg, right leg, right leg, right leg. Right? Because when you did that, whoa, you get into that locked position immediately. Versus from here, in other words, we're still on a pole, still on a pole, still on a pole, still on a pole. We push just as I'm about to step into the next step. That's one of the reasons why you feel that gap. Yeah? And the other thing is that when you close your feet, you have to communicate that into the arm. So at this very moment when he places the leg, zoom, 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 place the leg here, there should be a clear feeling of there's no more road. That's a physical lead. Now from here, he would allow me to continue on that leg so I can actually complete. Versus just boom, a wall, and now I can't do anything. He needs to allow me, by lowering this arm further down so I can arrive on my leg. Yeah, so can you just try it with us? Let's try it, let's try it, let's try it. Yep. So here, and zoom, boom. So stop for a second, slow. You pendulum to side. Now from here, place your heel and work longer on the back leg. Longer on the back leg. Zoom, so longer on the back leg. Through, and now step, lower the arm as she comes. Lower as she comes. There you go. If you go here and she wants to go further, she can't. You have to lower this arm so she goes forward. Yes?
Yeah? So guys, whenever we have to lead the girl, like for instance a rotation like this, right? Is to feel the sensitivity of when is that actually finished. So now she's arrived. So now I can clearly feel that I turn her around that center. Boom. And now I move up. Yeah? Because that's where, for instance, see sometimes the warm, and already now it starts turning.
That's
she hasn't even arrived.
Yes. Don't do that.
Yeah? But from here, that you really feel that. And that's also where we can see the beauty of the 4 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and 1. Yeah? That absorb that 4 and 1 underneath yourself and use that to move upwards.
Yeah, can you just try the same thing? And guys, be aware of that lowering. And girls, be aware of that work from the back leg. If you don't immediately get onto that leg. Alright? So, 2, 3, 4 and 1. And that 2 and now 3 and 4 and 1.
Sorry. Totally fine.
Try again in your own time. Foot timing together, guys. Foot, body weight. And lower the arm out there. Yes. Yes, I also feel that you were trying to really come closer to her. At that very moment, right? You go back, here. Now from this one, just step, and then go to side. First, and there. Right, get this first. Let's try. 2, 3, and 4. And
That's yes, the same.
Forward and not bad. You just ended up too far. Yeah, because you can lower this. So from here, lower the arm. So now I can stay close. You see? Now it's good. If this arm has flown there, 2, 3, 4. All right. Try that. Yes. Yes. 2, 3, but already here. When you come here with that leg, you come closer to me. That's it. Now rotate and keep that connection going. Rotate. Get the leg.
Yes.
Keep coming with the leg. Good. Step forward. Keep driving. Keep driving. Keep driving. Good. Now step into the next one and lock that. Stop that.
Feel that
Boom.
sir. It's literally this.
Now continue going back. Take your elbow with you.
Yes.
Walk, walk, and stop. Yes. The feeling I get is you're not lifting your elbow to the hip. So when you come forward, okay, come to me. I'm you. I'm you. Yeah? So when you do it, I feel this. Right? You do the action here, but nothing here. So stay, don't guess, just square up. This feeling. Yes? This. And then when I step here, so you actually stop with the elbow, and then you take it forward. Yeah? So this feeling of connecting the arm to the hip is very important. Yeah? So try to exercise that a little bit. All right? How does it feel, guys? Clearer? Any clearer? If it starts to feel too complicated, just switch back to the 4 components we spoke about and make sure you time it. Foot transfer pendulum rotation. Foot transfer pendulum rotation. Absolutely everything that we talked about today, yes, she should practice on her own. Exactly that step, and then the transfer, the pendulum rotation, everything you should do. Can you show me what you mean? Yeah, so when you go back here, tom. So what you should practice is first get that pendulum clear, this clear first, walk stop, and then from there rotate onto the same line, and then settle on one more time. So come back, should go step, and then transfer the weight, keep going, pendulum onto the left, pendulum on the left, then rotation, and then settle in the end to step. So transfer, pendulum, rotation, settle in the end. She's sitting a lot in the hips, a lot. She's going to get pain like that. Yeah, make sure whenever you work with her, right? Like you're the teacher or teacher? Oh, mom, okay. All right. But the feeling is that this goes too much outside.
Yeah.
Versus that's when I tell this in, and then you rotate just around this. Not this. Yes, very good. Very good. This is what you do. Yeah, rotation brings the leg. Yes, otherwise you have no chance for coordinating.
Yes.
Rotation happens from the weight transfer.
That's the structure of it. Yeah? Yes.
The second part is when the move comes from, so you can actually move out there. Yes. Stop. Same thing there. Think about it as a pendulum to the side. And now it's yeah, but not constant. That's the good thing. What I think is
Now step close. Yes. Now this is going to go forward fast. So meet. So now when you start to run through this one and sliding the wrist together, that's the yes. You see? So she's only going to be able to turn here once this starts to function. If you've gotten here, so you physically has no entry to tell them. Right? So try once. 1, 2, 3, 4.
okay, guys. Good. Good way to practice this as well for myself is actually the Kugarakas. Because then it's quite clear for me. I think we often think about it as an 8, right? But for me, that is a bit unclear. When does the actions actually go together? So just as an exercise, I'm thinking it very clear as a diagonal line from one hip to another, and now only just a rotation around my spine going back.
And now
another diagonal and a rotation. You can see my line is already, my hip is already aligned. So it just has to go, that hip has to go to the ball of the foot. Now I do rotation around that leg, and now I transfer there. around that leg and transfer there. Because I sometimes see that the rotation gets into the movement. No. Rotation, now transfer. Rotation, now transfer.
So an 8 is not like, sorry, it's not an 8 like this, it's an 8 like this. Yes.
Half circle with a diagonal in the
This
middle.
is the 8, like an infinity sign stretched. Yes.
A quick question. Are you thinking of this as a weight transfer first and then a pendulum, or are you thinking of this as a pendulum action?
So if we're just talking pure cucaracha, right? I don't think about it as a weight transfer because I don't want to transfer too much weight, right? So it's literally just the pendulum that goes from one to another. And then
A
from
pendulum
there,
into rotation.
into
A pendulum
rotation.
into
Yeah?
rotation.
But let's say, for instance, if I have cucarachas, and then the last one, I now have to time that pendulum together with the weight transfer. So that's why it's a big difference, for instance, if we're just doing cucarachas together. You see how our hips are timed together. But now if I want to go into a fan, I have to show that I actually move my whole weight onto that foot. And my hip is again forward. So I can now use that as a rotation to take the step out.
Yes.
Yeah? So that idea of the diagonal line forward
It's very
into rotation is quite clear once you get that picture. Because that's exactly what I do when I take a step here. This is the same. If I just do like that, same position. Yeah? So now from here, I literally just do a diagonal line of my hip. Whoops. Now I do a clear rotation. One, chica, one. Yeah? Now the next thing here, same thing. I now just from here, yeah, I do here, do the rotation, the pendulum. One. And now the rotation. One. Here, same thing. Pendulum into rotation. Pendulum into rotation. So once I get that pattern, that clockwork, as I say, into my body, everything is much more timed together, and I can then add the mechanics. Yeah? So for sure, we're totally for all these, need that in addition to whatever. We just feel there has to be a bit more attention to the work that's underneath and the injury going on. Yeah? Okay. We have to finish.
1 hour is never really enough. But
Yeah.
if you take just a simple note for yourself, simplify, clarify, and time together. That's going to solve really a lot of the problems, and it's going to give you a lot more togetherness, which we of course enjoy, right?
We
So
didn't have time to do it, but even try together, try the New York sections. Because it's quite a clear idea of rotation into pendulum swing. Arrive there. So now I can actually rotate around that leg. Yeah, and that's where we see some swing going on. But it's actually not clear that I'm getting onto that foot. And from there, I use it. I get back onto that foot, which is just a replace. So I can now use that underneath. Yeah? That's what we see from here. And now we're already opening up. No, getting there. Getting there. Use that leg. Get back onto that foot and use that. Yeah? Again, the only thing that I'm thinking is diagonal, now I rotate. Diagonal, now I go back. Now I rotate. Diagonal, rotate. That's what works in my feet and in my hips. Yeah?
Clearer?
All right.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.